At the same time, the Government Chief Whip, Pat Carey, confirmed that the Minister for Finance would, in the next few days, bring forward a fully transparent and fully vouched system of Oireachtas expenses. The Minister is on the line now. Brian Lenihan, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. What do you have in mind?
Well, first of all, what I had in mind already, of course, as announced over the summer, I reduced the existing expenses by 10%. They were last fixed in 2001. They have been all reduced by 10%, and in the case of travel and subsistence, they've been introduced by 25% a quarter. Now, at the time I announced those reductions, I indicated that I would welcome the views of the Oireachtas Commission on how these expenses could be verified. And the Commission have come up with a proposal that I should combine all expenses into one monthly block grant to deputies, which would be unvouched and would simply be based on the distance the deputy has from the seat of our Parliament in Dublin. I've looked at this proposal and I'm not happy with it. I think we need far more verification of expenses. I discussed the issues with my own parliamentary party last evening, and they're in full agreement with me that expenses must be verifiable. We can't have an arrangement of an unvouched block grant for deputies, and I wouldn't be comfortable signing off as a minister with that as a genuine reform of the system. Look, politicians have genuine expenses. They do maintain offices. They do have to use telephones. We know that, and that should be covered, that these are legitimate expenses. And I'm quite prepared to ensure that a system is put in place to ensure that those genuine expenses are met. But we can't have a system that allows any inference be drawn that expenses are being pocketed for personal profit. And I'm not suggesting that that's happening, but I'm suggesting that any system should ensure that that perception is not there.
Well, just to look, and I don't want to take individual TDs, but if you look at today's Independent, they highlight the top 10, and just to take one of them at random, and there are a couple of them around this figure, of over €190,000 now, and maybe 160 of that in untaxed allowances and expenses over the last 2 years. Now, would you see those figures coming down?
Yes, I mean, we have to look at the figures and we have to look at what the genuine expenses are and we have to measure them. And that's why I don't think a single composite allowance is a good idea, because in effect it doesn't account or verify what genuine expenses have been incurred. And I was very disappointed that Deputy Rabbitt suggested in recent weeks and Deputy Gilmore this morning that myself or Fianna Fáil were dragging our heels on this issue. We're not. I'm simply not prepared to sign off on a proposal which provides that a blanket sum is handed out irrespective of whether the sum has been incurred or not. There will have to be verification of expenses. I've done a reduction and I want what's there to be verified. And I think if we verify the expenses, the genuine expenses can be accounted for. And politicians do have genuine expenses. And I think everyone would accept that. And I think it's for their own protection that whatever system is put in place should be verifiable.
But take some of the basics of TDs or senators coming to Dublin from the country. They would have mileage, presumably, which you pay at a particular rate, and they would have accommodation. Now, do you want them to produce a receipt for where they spend the night?
Well, again, proposals are being finalised there, but on the mileage question, first of all, the current rate of mileage, the mileage rates were reduced by 25% already this year. So some of the figures referred to in the newspapers would refer to previous years. There has been a reduction in the amount of mileage. In relation to subsistence, again, that is the cost of staying in the capital for deputies who are more than a certain distance from the capital. Again, we have to look at the distances, and we also have to examine the question of what the appropriate rate of it is in the light of prevailing cost of staying in the capital. And they're the issues that have to be worked through.
So they would be fixed allowances, Minister, from what you're saying, as opposed to amounts that would have to be vouched?
I haven't finalised my decision on that yet. I'm still considering the options there. I spent a number of hours in recent days with my civil servants going through the various options. But what I want to assure...
what will have to be vouched for then?
What I want to make clear is that whatever is done here has to be verifiable. I haven't made final decisions, and I'm not going to make final decisions on your programme about this, Pat. Sorry, Sean. What I'm clear about this is I'm not prepared to sign off on a proposal that simply provides an unvouched block grant based on distance from the capital.
Right, but we're really talking about stuff that's verifiable as opposed to vouched in part.
Some elements will have to be vouched. For example, telephones are an obvious case. At present, there's an unvouched telephone allowance. I see no reason why that should not be vouched. Again, I go through each individual item of expense and look at what protects the taxpayer and on what allows the deputy to claim a legitimate expense. That's what I have to do, and that's what I intend to do.
And this will be up and running when?
This, again, as you know, the commission, it was decided again at the suggestion of the opposition parties that a commission should be set up to run the Dáil. That commission was set up a number of years ago. I have to work with them. I have to say I was very, very disappointed that the Labour Party leader presented a motion of no confidence at the Ceann Comhairle at a time when this matter, the matter of his own expenses, was before the commission. His own party has a representative on the audit committee of that commission. That was not acceptable practice.
So are you implying, Minister, that Eamon Gilmore shouldn't have had to wait for the Sunday papers to read about John O'Donoghue's expenses?
The story he referred to in the Sunday newspapers related to his expenditures as a Ceann Comhairle. There's a commission that deals with those expenditures, and Deputy Gilmore has representation on that commission. That's the point I'm making.
And the
other point I'd like to make is that the Ceann Comhairle is not in a position to defend himself. He's in the same position as a judge or the President of Ireland. A motion was tabled in regard to him before he got an opportunity to explain the position to the people who paid him the expenses. Now, you wouldn't treat a member of a trade union like that, or a worker, or there'd be a general strike.
So you're basically saying that John O'Donoghue didn't get fair treatment?
I don't think there was a great dignity about it, and I don't think it was a good day for Irish politics.
Well,
and that's my view of it.
Yet the government seems to have gone along with it.
No, it's not a matter of going along with it. The Ceann Comhairle took a decision, and I respect his decision, as does the Taoiseach and the government. But I don't think it was right or proper for a motion to be tabled in relation to a man who wasn't given an opportunity to explain the position to the body which paid his expenses, and which included members of the party of which the person who tabled the motion.
Maybe a way to have avoided that would have been for the Taoiseach to go along with the Eamon Gilmore's suggestion that the party leaders get together and discuss the best way forward.
But again, the expenses which Deputy Gilmore took a stand on the 6 o'clock news yesterday were his expenses as Ceann Comhairle. The Ceann Comhairle made clear he wanted to explain that position to those who had paid him the expenses, who included members of Deputy Gilmore's party. And I think that was the correct procedure. But listen, there's no point arguing about procedures now. It's over. It may have, following the position I took, might have delayed matters for a few days. We don't know. That's a matter of conjecture. The key point, though, is procedures were not followed here, and there isn't much point having an all-party commission running the Oireachtas if the parties are going to remove the head of that commission without any notice.
Minister, thank you very much indeed for joining us. That's the Minister for Finance there, Brian Lenihan.